an expression. When everyone is watching the baby, no one is watching the baby. Could this apply to the disappearance of 8-year-old Relisha Rudd? Relisha had no shortage of family, friends, and teachers who loved and cared for her, yet she still disappeared in March 2014 and remains missing to this day. Relisha was born in Washington, D.C. on October 29, 2005. She lived in an apartment with her mom, Shamika Young, and she was the eldest sister to two brothers, Arvin and Antonio Jr. Relisha took her role as a big sister seriously and even acted as a mother figure. Family members say that Relisha loved playing with her little brothers, helping them with chores, and didn't hesitate to admonish them if they did something wrong. This maternal instinct wasn't limited to just her siblings. Her grandmother recalls how she even offered to help other parents with their babies, offering to change their diapers, push their strollers, feed, and even burp them. Relisha was described by family members and teachers as kind-hearted, friendly, lovely, and very sweet. If you listen to some of the stories on the podcast Through the Cracks, you might be inclined to call her spunky. Relisha's mother says that her daughter was the kind of person that everyone immediately fell in love with. She was everyone's best friend. In 2012, Relisha's family moved into a shelter, which was formerly the D.C. General Hospital. It is here that a man named Khalil Tatum, who worked at the shelter, befriended Relisha's family, including mom, Shamika, and her boyfriend, Antonio. On March 13, 2014, after reaching 10 unexcused absences at Payne Elementary School, the school notified DC's Child and Family Service Agency. They were told Relisha was under the care of a doctor who would excuse the absences. 6 days later, a social worker visited the shelter where Relisha and her family were living and learned that the doctors responsible for Relisha was actually Khalil Tatum, a janitor from the shelter. At this point, her family and the authorities feared he had taken Relisha. An investigation began to determine Relisha's last known whereabouts. Relisha Rudd was last seen on February 26, 2014 on the surveillance footage at a Holiday Inn Express in Northeast D.C. with Khalil Tatum. However, according to police reports, she was also with Tatum on March 1, 2014 at a Days Inn. It was the last known location that Relisha was seen and nearly a month before she was reported missing. The following day, Tatum was seen purchasing 42-gallon self-tie contractor trash bags, a shovel, and lime from a store nearby. He was later seen near Nileworth Park and Aquatic Gardens. Relisha Rudd's mother, Shamika, and her stepfather, Antonio, were questioned in the shelter. Police also questioned Relisha's aunt, Ashley, and her grandmother, Melissa. On the same day, Khalil Tatum checks into a room at a Red Roof Inn in Maryland with his wife, Andrea. On March 18, 2014, nearly 3 weeks after her last known sighting, D.C. police held a conference asking the public for more information regarding Relisha's disappearing before issuing an Amber Alert for Relisha. Meanwhile, in Maryland, Andrea, Khalil's wife, is found deceased due to a gunshot wound to the head in the hotel where she and Khalil were staying. A week later, law enforcement redefines the search for Relisha to a recovery mission. On April 1st, 2014, Khalil Tatum was found in Nileworth Park with a self-inflicted gunshot wound to the head. Tatum used the same weapon he used to unalive his wife, Andrea. A week later, D.C. Mayor Vincent Gray ordered an investigation into the city's response to Relisha's disappearance. Where is the case today? The published report stated that although there was miscommunication among several agencies, no government intervention could have prevented the disappearance of Relisha. In 2017, Washington, D.C. officials named July 11th Relisha Rudd Remembrance Day. The timeline. February 26, 2014. According to officials, Relisha's mother, Shamika Young, asks a janitor at the shelter where her family is living, Khalil Tatum, to care for Relisha. Today, Relisha's mother denies this claim and instead insists that Relisha had been left under the care of her grandmother and her aunt. February 26, 2014, 7:25 p.m. Relisha Rudd is spotted on surveillance camera footage at Holiday Inn Express in Northeast D.C. with Khalil Tatum. March 1st, 2014. Relisha is seen for the last time by her mother. According to D.C. officials, Relisha is last seen by her mother on March 1st, 2014. She is seen again this day for the final time on surveillance footage at the Days Inn Motel. March 2nd, 2014. Khalil Tatum buys suspicious items and spends time in Nalworth Park. Khalil Tatum purchased 42-gallon self-tie contractor trash bags, a shovel, and lime at a Home Depot. He then spends a significant amount of time around Nalworth Park and Aquatic Gardens. March 2014. Relisha's mother and stepfather post photos flaunting money on Facebook. A few days after Relisha's disappearance, her stepfather, Antonio Wheeler, posts several photos to his Facebook account flaunting large stacks of money, expensive shoes, and a brand new cell phone. This leads to quick spread of a rumor alleging that Relisha may have been sold into child sex trafficking. Relisha's grandmother would later come forward and explain that this money had come from a Social Security disability check and a tax refund. She also explains that $4,000 that had been received by Shamika shortly after Relisha was last seen had come from an insurance settlement relating to a car accident. March 10th, 2014. Khalil Tatum allegedly poses as Relisha's doctor when speaking to city officials. According to investigators, Khalil poses as Relisha's doctor when city officials express their concern for her safety. According to officials, Khalil informs them that Relisha has a neurological disorder and that she is undergoing treatment. March 13, 2014. The morning. Relisha is reported missing by the staff at her school. The counselor at Payne Elementary School contacts D.C. Child and Family Service agencies after Relisha reaches 10 unexcused absences. By this point, Relisha hasn't been seen in 18 days. This is when Relisha is officially reported missing. March 19, 2014. A social worker visits D.C. General where Relisha and her family are staying. A social worker from Relisha's elementary school visits the shelter where she and her family live. When the social worker returns to pick up paperwork of Relisha's alleged treatment, Khalil and Relisha are gone. They find that Dr. Tatum is named on Relisha's excused absence notes, and Dr. Tatum is actually not a doctor, but a janitor at the shelter. March 19, 2014. Relisha's family, Relisha's mother, Shamika Young, her stepfather, Antonio Wheeler, and her grandmother, Melissa Young, are questioned in a conference room at D.C. General. The police visit the home of Relisha's aunt, Ashley, and bring her to the conference room for questioning as well. March 19, 2014, at night. Khalil Tatum and his wife Andrea check into the Red Roof Inn in Oxon Hill, Maryland at approximately 10 o'clock p.m. Relisha is not with them at this time. Based on surveillance footage from the motel, 3 people entered the motel and left Andrea alone in the room just before midnight. March 20, 2014, early morning. Only one of the 3 people returned to the motel the morning after visiting the Red Roof Inn the following morning. The individual returned to the motel around 6 o'clock a.m. to pick up Khalil, who wouldn't let him enter the room. Khalil and the unidentified individual then drive to Southern Avenue Metro Station in Hillcrest Heights, where he drops off Khalil. This is Khalil's last known location. March 20, 2014. DC police hold a public press conference and release a press release about Relisha's disappearance to ask for more information from the public. It is a joint effort between the FBI and the DC Police Department. March 20, 2014, 12:28 p.m. DC police issue an Amber Alert for Relisha Rudd. The alert states that Relisha may be in the company of 2 men, Khalil Tatum and Ricky Lyles, who has a long criminal history which includes Child CA conviction. The Amber Alert specifies that the men and Relisha may be in a white 1976 GMC truck with Maryland Sage 305015. Shortly after, officials announced that Ricky is no longer believed to be involved. March 20, 2014, 9:16 a.m. Khalil Tatum's wife, Andrea Tatum, is found unalived from a gunshot to the head at the Red Roof Inn in Oxon Hill, which they had previously checked into. March 21, 2014. A warrant is announced for Khalil Tatum and his wife's murder. After Andrea Tatum's body is found inside of a motel, officials announce that a warrant has been issued for her husband, Khalil Tatum, who is believed to have unalived his wife. The FBI offers a $20,000 reward for information leading to Khalil's arrest, and the Prince George County Police Department offered an additional $25,000 reward for information leading to Khalil's arrest and indictment. March 21, 2014. Officials locate Khalil Tatum's car. Officials with the Prince George County Police Department locate the truck in Hyattsville, Maryland, and announce that they have recovered every vehicle known to be related to Relisha's disappearance. Authorities had been searching for Khalil's car, a white 1976 GMC pickup truck that he was believed to have been driving around the time of Relisha's disappearance. March 22, 2014, 3:26 p.m. Another Amber Alert is issued for Relisha. Another Amber Alert is issued for Relisha 3 weeks after she has last been seen. This alert is issued outside of the DC metro area. March 25, 2014. Officials release surveillance video of Relisha and Khalil Tatum. Officials released surveillance footage from February 26, 2014, showing Relisha and Khalil at the Holiday Inn Express Motel in D.C. Also on March 25, 2014, the Metropolitan Police Department is questioned about the Amber Alert issued for Relisha. D.C. Metropolitan Police Chief Kathy Lanier is questioned about why the Amber Alert issued for Relisha had only been issued in Washington, D.C. In response, Lanier explained that there is an Amber Alert as far as north of Pennsylvania and as far south as Florida. Shortly after, Lanier released an official statement on the issue. March 26, 2014, the FBI requests the public's help in locating Khalil Tatum. They announced that there is a $25,000 reward for information leading to Relisha's location and return, and an additional $20,000 reward for information leading to Khalil's arrest, and another $25,000 being offered by the Prince George County Police Department for information leading to Khalil's arrest and indictment. Also on March 26, 2014, Khalil is placed on the FBI's most wanted list. After being charged with the murder of his wife, Khalil is placed on the Federal Bureau of Investigation most wanted list. In his listing, the FBI reports that Khalil may be in or may have traveled to the Atlanta, GA area. March 28, 2014, officials begin searching Nalworth Park in D.C. Several agencies, including D.C. Police, Cadets, U.S. Park Police, the FBI, Montgomery County Police, and the National Park Service, gathered to search Nalworth Park in D.C. for any sign of Relisha. According to reports, more than 100 people were included in the search, who worked nearly 16 hours and will continue for several days. According to officials, the search is conducted after they received a tip regarding a potential gravesite within the park. March 28, 2014, officials hold a press conference. During the press conference, D.C. Police Chief Kathy Lanier explains that Khalil Tatum had contact and interactions with several young girls at the D.C. General Shelter prior to Relisha's disappearance. Also, in the evening of March 28, 2014, officials searched the hotel where Relisha was last seen. They performed a search warrant on room 245 at the Days Inn where Relisha and Khalil were last known to be located. On the afternoon of April 1st, 2014, Khalil Tatum is found unalived. The police report that they had found Khalil Tatum deceased from an apparent self-inflicted gunshot wound in Nalworth Park. They report that the bullet and the gun used were the same ones from Andrea, his wife's, unaliving. On the evening of April 2nd, 2014, the search at Nalworth Park concludes. After searching the Nalworth Park and Aquatic Center every day since March 28, the search finally concludes without the discovery of significant evidence in Relisha's disappearance. Authorities hold a press conference at 4:30 p.m. announcing that the search at this location will end at nightfall. On April 2014, a grand jury considers charging Shamika, the mother of Relisha Rudd, with obstruction of justice. A grand jury gathers and discusses pressing charges against Relisha's mother, Shamika Young, for obstruction of justice. The charge cites instances where Shamika insisted that Relisha was safe around 3 weeks after her disappearance, along with alleged claims that Shamika assisted Khalil when he posed as a doctor to take Relisha out of school. On April 6, 2014, community members marched the street of D.C. demanding justice for Relisha. A community-wide effort is made to bring justice to Relisha as members of the D.C. community march through the streets of D.C. chanting, "Help find Relisha." Attendees distributed flyers and spread awareness for her. June 1st, 2014, a no-contact order is filed against Shamika by Relisha's grandmother. A D.C. judge issues a year-long no-contact protection order against Relisha's mother, Shamika, for her grandmother, Melissa Young. There had already been a temporary protection order in place, but the judge decides to extend the length of the order. The protection order requires that Shamika remains no less than 100 feet of Melissa at any time. March 16, 2015. A judge rules that Relisha's brothers will not be returned to their mother. A judge rules that Relisha's 3 brothers, age 8, 6, and 5, will not be returned to the custody of their mother, Shamika Young, and that they will instead remain in foster care. In the judge's ruling, she cites a 1992 beating, unaliving of Relisha's half-sister, as well as voicing mental health concerns for Shamika, Antonio Wheeler, Relisha's stepfather, and her father, Irving Rudd. On April 5, 2016, the Relisha Rudd Law is introduced. This bill, which is officially titled The Requirement to Report Missing Children Amendment Act of 2016 will require the parent or guardian of a child who goes missing to contact police within 24 hours or when they knew or should have known their minor was missing while in their custody, according to reports. The bill also outlines a time frame for a missing persons report, stating that a report must be made within 48 hours of the child last being seen, or else a misdemeanor charge may be imposed on the parent or guardian. On July 11, 2017, D.C. officials named July 11th as Relisha Rudd Remembrance Day. Hello. Welcome back to Cover 2 Crime. Thank you for listening to Relisha Rudd's story. This beautiful, innocent little girl. I don't even know where to begin. I know around the time of her disappearance, 2014, I was going through a lot in my personal life, and this video isn't about me, that I never heard of this story. I never heard of this beautiful little girl, this beautiful, bright, kind, innocent soul. And just the chaos, the misunderstandings, the mishaps, the lack thereof, the family, her own mother. There is so much to this story. First, I want to say what stood out to me. A few of the things that stood out to me. Number one is she was missing for 18 days before she was even reported missing. The second thing that stood out to me, it wasn't her mother, Shamika Young, that reported her own 8-year-old daughter missing. It was the school counselor. And it is alleged that the school counselor became a bit suspicious when Relisha was missing quite a few unexcused absences. And whenever this individual called the shelter, because they were connected to, I believe, children and youth, children CPS services, due to the fact that they were in the shelter. And they did have an apartment before they were evicted and ended up going into the shelter. But this one particular counselor, like, all the teachers knew her, and they were all concerned with her, as teachers and school officials should be. They should not be more concerned than your own parents, but I'm going to get to that. So it has been alleged that when Relisha was missing too many days of school, the counselor decided to call the shelter, and the shelter was stating that she was under a doctor's care, that a note will be provided. So more days went past, and the counselor was like, hey, where is this note? And then, because Relisha ends up and has 2 other siblings that does attend the same school as she does, obviously Shamika has to come and pick up her children. So the counselor was like, you know what, let me ask the security officer, whenever he sees, Relisha's mother, let me know, and I will meet up with her and try to see if I can get this doctor's note. Well, when that happened, and it's been alleged, when the counselor did approach Relisha's mother at the time that she was picking up her 2 sons, Relisha's siblings, her 2 brothers, she's going to tell the counselor, yes, my daughter is under the care of a Dr. Tatum. And that's when they discussed about getting the note. And there was a constant delay in receiving this note, where the counselor was just like, you know what, I had it, I'm going to call Children and Youth Services. And that's when they took it upon themselves to go down to the DC shelter and ask questions. And when they found out that this Dr. Tatum, there's no Dr. Tatum. This is actually Khalil Tatum, the janitor. So it's also been alleged that the mother, Shamika, has a lot of different, she just keeps changing up her story, so she's not really credible. And as you can see with the timeline, some of the things that she did say, and then she's going around saying that she didn't say that. But the number one thing is, how does your child go 18 days missing? This is the time, 2014, there's cell phones. Even if you don't have a house phone, there's cell phones. I think around this time there were the free Obama cell phones around this time, wasn't there? So there's so many ways of communication. I don't know how a child can just vanish without a parent being concerned. There was a back and forth with who had Relisha Rudd at the same time. At one point, Shamika was saying that her mother, Melissa Young, had her, and Melissa was like, no, I did not have her. And at one point, Ashley had her, which is her Shamika's sister. And it was this sort of dynamic where no kid wants to be in a shelter. And if you have a big family like that, hey, why not have your child, stay with a family member one day, or, you know what I'm saying, or another day or whatever. So I guess that's what was going on. But to add to this situation, we also have the mother, Shamika, who befriended the janitor there, Khalil Young, and Khalil Tatum. And here's Mr. Tatum is friendly with all the kids there. And I remember when they were actually investigating and asking questions on and finding out any information on who knew anything about Mr. Tatum, a lot of the parents said, yeah, we all know him. He's a kind guy, and he's very sweet, he's very generous. He brought my daughter a fish tank. But that was it. Like, enough is enough. You don't need to keep giving my child things, and I definitely agree. It was also stated that upon doing my research, that as you can see, Relisha was more like a mother figure. She was the oldest, and she loved her brothers. She loved to be there for them. And it was stated that in the shelter, whenever they had breakfast or lunch and they were to come down to the cafeteria to all eat, Relisha will actually come down with her siblings and say that her mother was in the restroom, or something like that, which I don't even know why her mother would let her bring her siblings downstairs to have breakfast. Like, what are you doing that is so important that you cannot monitor and accompany your children for a meal? You're in a shelter system with a whole bunch of individuals where there's no background checks there. At least from what I know. I've never, I don't have any prior criminal history, and I've had quite my own upbringing, and I've been in a shelter system. And you can never trust individuals that are there, because you don't know the criminal past or the history of anyone or any other individual that you're with, your roommate or just someone in the cafeteria with you. You don't know any of these people. So to have your children roaming around by themselves, and in the shelter they actually have that as a policy that your children has to be with you at all times. So I don't even know how this was happening. There's just so much of the story that I can get lost and sidetracked and not even know where I'm picking up from, because it's just so much. And then we have Antonio Wheeler, which is Relisha's stepfather. And he seems pretty genuine. As much as more and more that I researched into the family, I learned that he is no longer with Shamika. He actually suspects that Shamika, Relisha's mother, has something to do with the disappearance. They did dismiss and rule out human trafficking, because Mr. Tatum was so generous and taking Relisha out on shopping sprees and getting her nails done, taking her to the spa. It's a little bit odd, and then there was this whole suspicious surrounding when around the time that Relisha went missing, Antonio and Shamika was, bragging on Facebook about having a significant amount of money and things like that. So, but that was later dismissed by Grandma Melissa Young, stating that they ended up having a tax return and Social Security disability. So that was that. But you still can't ignore the fact that Mama Shamika constantly is changing her story. So to her, she just doesn't seem credible to me. And why would you allow your family to be so trustworthy and so comfortable with this man? I can understand her situation where times are tough. They probably didn't, they didn't have much funds. They their living situation isn't great, and then you have someone that's willing to help you. But you always have to consider someone's motives, and you cannot even trust a dollar in your pocket. That's something my dad used to always tell me, and I learned that the hard way, through trials and tribulations. But this story really has stuck with me, I think, because of the entirety of everything, the people, the family that's involved, the miscommunications. Just It's just really, really confusing. And to make things worse is that, did you know that Mr. Tatum, Khalil Tatum, um, he actually was hired through DC Shelter, which was formerly a hospital, with having a felon. He is an ex-convict and felon from burglarizing homes and theft and things like that. He was incarcerated between two different year periods, so two different charges, okay? Yet he still was able to work at this shelter where there's children and families. And this is what I mean, that you cannot trust not even staff or not even your neighbor when it comes to, not even just in a shelter, anywhere you are, anywhere in life, because you never know, sadly, and it makes things very difficult as far as finding a significant other, or even building a friendship, because you really have to get to know a person. And thank goodness now that we're living in an age where you can type in someone's first and last name and you can find out all this information. Was it available in 2014? I think it was coming there, but still, then there was also the background. They did come from a broken family. Like Melissa herself had to deal with eviction, and then Shamika was in a foster care system. But I can't give them any excuse for that. I was very, very young when I had my daughter, and I grew up in a very, very toxic um, environment. I was also neglected, and I've been through the foster care system, and amongst a lot of different things that this is not, like I said, it's not pertaining to me, this video. And I made sure I did what I had to do as a single parent, and my daughter graduated. She is now 22 years old, and I'm proud, and I'm grateful, and I'm blessed. And I would have never ever trust anyone with my child. And we were in the shelter system, and she just stuck by my side the whole time. So I can't really. You can consider that, but you can't navigate from that, and but you can't use that as an excuse, So Mama Shamika, there's no excuse for that, honey. Where did they go wrong? Do we blame CPS? Now that's one thing that I also want to discuss. When I was digging into this, I found that Shamika had, I believe, some CPS cases involving with a half sister of Relisha. It stated a beating, unaliving, but unfortunately, because I'm posting videos every week, which is something that we're going to discuss, that I'm thinking about probably moving it to every other week, so I can thoroughly research these cases. But back to that. So I couldn't really research into the case that she had, but I don't understand, because she eventually loses her custody of her two sons, or I think she ended up having another baby, 3 kids. The two with Antonia Wheeler, and I guess she had another child. I'm not sure, but she lost all custody of her children after this. But the fact that she had a CPS case, which it says on the timeline, if you want to rewind back, it specifically says the beating, unaliving, the beating, DEATH. So I'm like, okay, back in 1992 or something like that. So if that's the case, why did she have her children in the first place? Okay, so there's a system failure right there. She should have never had custody of her children, period. And the fact that I understand that the goal of CPS is try to keep and remain families together. But guys, you guys just be doing it. They just have it all backwards. They will leave the the abused victims in the homes and remove the ones that deserve to be home. I just don't know. It's just really, really crazy. The fact that young Melissa, does not get along with Shamika, and Shamika, it seems like, was trying to put it on her grandma Melissa, stating that grandma had her last, and it's just ridiculous. Just ridiculous. So, also, I don't know why they would take it there, but they ended up taking their situation to Steve Wilkos. You know who Steve Wilkos is. We all know who Jerry Springer was, and Jerry, let him rest in peace. We miss you, Jerry. But it was his security guard that ended up going on his own and producing his own show, Steve Wilkos. Well, Shamika decided to take it upon herself. This is what I read somewhere, that Shamika decided to bring her mother, Melissa, and her ex-boyfriend, the father of her boys, her two sons that they now no longer have custody of, to the Steve Wilkos show because she suspects that they have something to do with the disappearance of Relisha. Well, they end up going on to Steve Wilkos, and Antonio took his lie detector test, and so did Melissa. And the questions were, did you have anything to do with the disappearance of Relisha Judd? Do you know anything about the disappearance of Relisha Judd? And was she in your care? And did you hand her to Khalil Tatum? And with all those questions, Antonio Wheeler and her mother Melissa both answered all those questions truthfully. They were not lying. So grandma Melissa did not have that baby, and she did not hand that baby to Khalil Tatum, and neither did Relisha's stepfather, Antonio Wheeler. He did not hand that baby, and he went in on her. He was really upset. You never cried. And I'm going to show you a clip of this from Steve Wilkos. I just don't want to have any copyrights, but I will try to show as much as I can. So it's just, why would you go on that show? I guess to do the lie detector test, if you want to have some answers. It's a highly publicized show, and it's been known for scripted lines, and more like a reality show type thing. But hey, I guess they wanted to publicize more about the disappearance of their daughter, and at the same time get the lie detector test. So I guess that's the route that they chose. Will I choose that route? Absolutely not. But it is what it is. And after all of this, I still didn't even know. So I'm really glad that I chose to do this and to get into true crime and to try to make a difference and to spread some light into these victims, and to try to help the victim families, because I never heard of this beautiful angel, and she's gonna really stick in my heart and in my soul, and I really pray that we can get some answers. The fact that Khalil, if you listened carefully, you would see that he had first had Relisha at the hotel, and then he ended up having Andrea, which was his wife of 20 years, and he took her to the hotel, and he didn't have Relisha at that time, and she ends up being murdered, unalived, by her husband of 20 years. Okay, he murdered her. Now, one can only guess and theorize, why did he do that? She must have information. So that was a twist in the case. And then not too long after, he goes ahead and commits S and unalives himself. So it's like, where do you go for any answers? Because the person that has your daughter now is deceased, and the person that's most connected to him, he unalived. So sadly, the only person I believe that has any answers is Mama Shamika. And when it came back again to the Steve Wilkos case, the only person that refused to take the lie detector is Shamika. Why is she refusing? Now, we all know lie detectors are not admissible in court, but it is a form of circumstantial evidence. It does work, and I believe in them. How do you feel about lie detectors? I believe in them because they're acting on your impulses and your nerves in your body, and it's just unbelievable that this woman will not take this test. So till this day, 10 years later, it's the 10-year anniversary in March of this year, and this is why I wanted to cover this story again and bring it back into the public. What else can we cover? The police and investigators were stating that they did all they can, and they don't believe that there could have been any other way where, um, what's the word I'm trying to use? Government officials stating that they did everything they could, and there was no way they could have prevented the disappearance of Relisha Rudd. Um, as far as government officials and CPS, the school did their due diligence. They did what they had to do. CPS did what they had to do, aside from not having those children in Shamika's care in the first place. I really don't understand that. I don't care about, I know the goal is to keep the families together. She had a major case a few years back where we read that it said a beating, DEATH. What is that about? So I do want to get into that after this case and dig into some more of that, because I will be following this case. But the parents, there's a lot that the parents could have did to um, there's a lot the parents could have did to prevent their daughter from going missing. You don't let your daughter go with any strange individual, female, male, child. You don't let your child go with anyone, ever, ever. I don't understand that. I really don't, and I really hope and pray that she is out there somewhere. You never want to lose hope. Her stepfather still loves her very, very much, and he still tries to do his best to search for her and figure out what else he can do. And they do yearly, I think, Remembrance Day vigils and things on her birthday, which is beautiful. But realistically, I fear that she is no longer with us. And regardless of the fact that baby needs to come home, she needs to come home, whether in spirit or to be laid, either way. So this case is really going to stick with me for a while. I'm going to continue following this case. Please let me know in the comments below, how do you feel about this case? What do you think that government officials or detectives or mom and dad or her parents could have done differently? Do you agree that, as much as I agree that I think that Shamika Young, Relisha Rudd's mother, she knows something, and yeah. And when it comes to bringing these cases every Sunday, how do you guys feel if I bring them every other Sunday, just until I can get a bit of a swing of certain things? Because I have quite a very, very busy personal life. I have an adult daughter, but my adult daughter does require some additional care. I have a mother, which requires care as well. And I have pets, and I have a day job, and I do have a small business. My small business consists of all natural cosmetics. As you can see in all my videos, I'm really always more natural. I wear makeup, but I leave that for like occasions. I'm really more of a natural plain Jane girl, and I love natural glowing skin. And if you want, just check it out. We actually have a sale going on. That's 20% off for our 3-year anniversary. But yeah, because I have all this stuff going on, at least until I can get some help, maybe with editing or writing, research, or anything, I think in order for me to give you the best experience in quality and facts, I think every other Sunday would be best. But let me know what you guys think about this case and how you feel, and what do you think if I bring you cases to every other Sunday, if you guys can bear with me. Thank you for subbing. We made it to 500 subs. I am so grateful. Also, thank you for bearing with me. I am very, very shy. I'm learning to get a hang of expressing my words where they come from my head out of my mouth properly, instead of all mushed up, because sometimes I can't even think of the words that I'm going to say. So I really, really appreciate your patience and your kind words. And I'll see you next Sunday or the Sunday after. Well, let me know what you guys think. And I'll see you next Sunday with an all-new case. Thank you. Thanks for watching. Bye.
They told me that my daughter was missing. Khalil was a janitor who worked at the shelter. Khalil was a suspect after they found his wife deceased in a hotel. An anonymous tip, it led the police to the park. They found Khalil's body. The authorities are saying that he died from apparent suicide. They are saying that Khalil plays a role in this by kidnapping my daughter. When I saw the footage of Khalil and my daughter walking down a hotel hallway, that made my mouth drop.
I was informed that my stepdaughter was missing on the 19th. That's the day I found out, is when the world found out.
Antonio, you know I didn't have anything to do with my daughter's disappearance. Why would you come out your mouth like that?
You don't act like a mother that was grieving. They got an 8-year-old child missing. I never seen you cry.
Oh, you seen me cry.
I never seen you
cry.
What do you believe happened to your daughter?
When I called a family member up, she didn't make it to the destination where she was supposed to go at. She was supposed to be going to the emergency room.
Who was taking her there?
My mother.
How did you not know that she had been missing for 18 days?
I didn't have any contact.
Why not?
I didn't have a phone.
This janitor that you see in the video, what was your relationship with him? Khalil.
I didn't have a relationship with him. He had a relationship with a family member of mine.
Do you believe that your daughter had something to do with your granddaughter's disappearance? You do.
I believe.
Your daughter's adamant that you gave your granddaughter to...
Tell her to take the lie detector test. I took it.
Well, that's why I'm here.
You came here and took a lie detector test, and
that's
we
why
asked
I'm here.
Did you participate in any way in the disappearance of Relisha? You answered no. Have you ever had any sexual physical contact with Relisha? You answered no. Did you ever strike any of your children, leaving marks or bruises? You answered no. The results came back the same to each and every question, and they came back that Antonio told the truth. Melissa, you took a lie detector test, and we asked you, did you participate in any way in the disappearance of your granddaughter? You answered no. Did you give your granddaughter to Khalil Tatum around the time of her disappearance? You answered no, and the results came back that you, Melissa, told the truth.
Your turn. Your turn.
You don't have to take a test, but you're not eliminating yourself as a suspect in the disappearance of your daughter.
Let me tell you something.
You, I believe, have something to do with her disappearance. After the show aired, thousands of people took to social media condemning Shamika for not taking a lie detector test. It's been 3 years since her appearance on my show, and now she is joining us virtually. When you watch the clips of being on the show, what do you feel about it?
I don't feel no type of way about it because I'm a strong individual.
What's your reaction to the people that wrote the comments about you?
I don't have to let the whole world know what I am doing for my daughter. If they want to know if I'm currently active on my daughter's case, yes, I am. I talked to the new detective that's on there, but I don't have to let the world know that.
We asked you to take a lie detector test. You refused 3 years ago to take it. If you were here now when we offered it to you, would you take it?
No, I wouldn't take it because why would I put my trust into a machine, Steve? That machine is not going to help me find my daughter. All that, go take a lie detector test to clear your name out for what?
There is a doubt about you and what you know, and I think that if you did take a lie detector test, at least that part would be eliminated if you passed a lie detector test.
Okay, I understand what you're saying.
Is there any new leads in your daughter's case?
There's been a couple of leads that turned out to be bogus leads.
Do you believe Antonio was involved with the disappearance of your daughter?
Yes, I do.
And why do you say that?
It's the way he come off at me. Like, instead of you. If my daughter is watching this right now, I would say, I love you. And come back home to your mother safely and unharmed. And I love you. And when you do return back, and if you do return back unharmed, you will never, ever go with anybody else. You will be next to my side at all times.
They say he's armed, that he's dangerous. He's wanted by the FBI. Khalil Tatum, wanted in connection with the murder of his wife. Wanted in the disappearance of 8-year-old Relisha Rudd.
He bought my daughter a fish tank, but I stopped it there. No more gifts.
DC General needs to be, I don't know, they need to really do a really thorough background check with these workers.
Sources tell News 4 Relisha's mom had allowed Tatum to take Relisha weeks ago, not suspecting he would hurt her.
The minute people saw that beautiful little girl's face, there were people in D.C. who could think of nothing else except to find out where she was. Her picture was everywhere. Her on every TV story, on telephone poles, on everywhere. Everyone was sharing it on social media. It was the search for her was something that Washingtonians, people from this area who were living here 10 years ago, you say her name, they immediately know what you're talking about.
My relationship with Relisha, it was good. It was like, even though she wasn't my biological child, it was like, it's hard. It's really hard, but it was special in its own way. She was a real sweetheart.
Bring her home! Bring her home!
We can no longer turn a blind eye to this issue of missing people of color around the country. 40% of the missing population are Black and brown people.
It had been almost a month since she had attended classes, but sources tell us this is not the first time officials knew of problems with the little girl's family.
This family was under the supervision of Child and Family Services. So this child should not have gone missing.
Doreen, why was this guy at a D.C. hotel? And why did he have this little girl with him?
I think as we look at Relisha's story, we can ask ourselves, okay, what other Relishas are out there? And what am I doing to prevent this from happening?
The significance of this section of the Anacostia is that we are directly downstream from Kenilworth Aquatic Gardens. That is where the search for 8-year-old Relisha Rudd has been focused for days.
We have to continue to hold her in our collective hearts and make sure that we do everything that we can do to prevent another child from going through what she did.
The search for Relisha Rudd resumes tomorrow morning.
Relisha's stepfather among those speaking through tears.
I just want my baby back. Yeah, I got hope, but I'm preparing for the worst, but I'm praying for the best. I got hope. My son believes she's alive. And this is coming from her brother.
Relisha.